1 minute. Someone's keying their microphone. Okay, stand by for systems. Okay, Steve. Okay, you got that. Someone's...
After years of unanswered questions, a break in the unsolved Gilgo Beach murders out of Long Island.
Hey, no!
I'm done.
Oh!
I'm done.
Oh!
You're all right. You're all right. You're all right.
Oh! You're dead, man! Ah!
A little bit earlier, the Hampton County District Attorney just released new evidence in the abduction and murder of Holly Paranen of Sturbridge, a serial killer more than 30 years after the last victim was found.
The New Bedford highway murders terrorized the South Coast back in the 80s, and as chief investigator Cheryl Fiandato reports, one victim's family believes the case is one tip away from being solved.
There are new developments in a case that terrorized the central U.S. for decades. Investigators believe the BTK killer may have had more victims than we first knew. Emily Akena now on what they found in his backyard this week.
Hey! You know you... Hey! Hey! What is me? What is me? Hey! Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Get on the ground! Hey, you got one in the back! One in the back! I swear to God! That's it! You move your whole ass! Like plans coming down the hill! Got two on foot! That's the problem. We're coming down the ramp. I'm gonna tell you, get off the boy. Coming down the ramp. Gray sweatshirt, black pants, mask on. Guy just jumped down. Hey, he just jumped down.
Yeah, we will. Have you been arrested before? You ever been arrested before?
Danny, where's your car?
Never been arrested before in LA?
Fourth was down.
How long ago? Sit up. How long ago? What's your name? What's your name?
11.
Developing this morning, new insight into capturing a suspected serial killer. The California man is believed to be behind a string of brutal murders that started back in July. Well, police say he was caught yesterday while he was hunting for another victim. Here's CBS's Bradley Blackburn.
Stockton, California police say this is the suspected serial killer who has had an entire city frozen in fear. Wesley Brownlee was arrested just after 2 a.m. Saturday near his Stockton home.
Tonight in Moscow, Idaho, Brian Koberger, the man charged with stabbing 4 college students to death, now indicted by a grand jury.
It would have made a frightening Hitchcock thriller if the crimes hadn't been real. A killer was stalking Boston women, raping and strangling them. In the most grotesque manner, he would display his work, and he always left a bizarre calling card, a nylon tied in a granny knot around the neck of each victim.
Good evening. Welcome to 22 News at 11. An intriguing development tonight concerning the search for the killer of Molly Bish.
Understandably, security is extremely tight here at the Pensacola City Jail. On the second floor of this building, Ted Bundy is under constant guard. Authorities are very well aware of the fact that Bundy has twice escaped from jail, and now that they know who he is, they are not about to let him slip away again. When he was arrested shortly after midnight on Wednesday, he was just considered a belligerent speeder. He fought with arresting officer David Lee when Lee stopped him for speeding. Only late last night, following FBI fingerprint identification, did Pensacola police learn they had captured one of the most wanted and, according to the FBI, most dangerous criminals in the country.
On the evening of February 9th, 2004, almost 18 years ago, Maura Murray crashed her car on Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire, never to be seen again.
I can't. Negative. I can't say. All I can say is this man needed help. This man seemed like a man who was coming up to a storm or to a climax. This very blood-curdling thing at one of the cutoffs where he said, children kill, and then the sort of an agonized cutoff, enough to turn your hair whiter than mine.
So inside the thrift shop, St. Vincent de Paul, attorney Melvin Belli and the San Francisco police waited for the Zodiac killer.
What's up, Devin?
We're going to have a great time together.
It may be the creepiest episode ever on The Dating Game, because this bachelor looking for love back in 1978 is actually a serial killer.
This afternoon, we have learned a convicted pedophile who admitted to assaulting dozens of children will not be getting out of prison today.
A lawyer for Wayne Chapman tells us several things need to be done before he's officially released. Many people are upset that Chapman will even go free. WBZ's Adam Myler has more now at noon from Shirley.
Well, it is a case that has never gone cold for the family of Holly Peranian, who would have turned 40 years old last month. Today, investigators renewed their call for the public's help with this investigation. Much of it centered on this T-shirt that you see behind me, which was among items found in the area of Brimfield, where Holly's remains were uncovered back in October of 1993. Take a closer look at it, with a very distinguishing color and Boston logo. Within the past 6 months, further forensic testing has been done, thanks to advances in testing procedures. Investigators want some very specific information related to it, and Holly Peranian's family hopes to finally have some closure.
Koberger has yet to enter a plea, but his previous attorney said he believes he'll be exonerated. The indictment follows his December arrest at his family home in Pennsylvania. More than 45 days after Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were found brutally murdered in this college house. According to court documents, Koberger's DNA was found on a knife sheath at the crime scene, and his white Hyundai Elantra seen driving here during a routine traffic stop.
Devastating crime. They compare, in the annals of crime, they compare absolutely with Jack the Ripper. Perhaps even worse, because they were quiet, deadly.
The Strangler's first victim was Anna Slessers, a 55-year-old divorcee, brutally beaten and strangled while a parade passed down her Back Bay Street. From June 1962 until January 1964, 10 more women would die the same way.
Believes he may have uncovered evidence that could lead to Molly's murderer. A lengthy article in the Worcester Telegram chronicles a custody investigation that ended with Gerald Battistoni serving up to 12 years for raping his girlfriend's daughter.
The former Tacoma and Seattle resident is a suspect in 36 sex killings in Colorado, Utah, Oregon, and Washington. And now he is being questioned in connection with 2 murders at a sorority house at Florida State University in Tallahassee.
As officials announce a suspect is now in custody. Multiple news outlets now reporting the suspect is 59-year-old Rex Heuerman of Massapequa Park.
Let's get off the district. Let's put in another 30 seconds, that's all. Roger. 008, hold us heading. I'm in King 004. How does that look? Looks good, Steve, and all systems are okay here. Winds are westerly and 10 knots. Okay, this is NASA 1 calling 10 seconds now. 10 seconds, Roger. 0, 5, 4, 3, I've got a blowout. Day for 3. Major pitch 0. Pitches out. Can't hold altitude. Correction. Almost on track. Flight emergency. Flight call. I can't hold it. She's breaking up. She's breaking.
Hey guys, going to be on with you just briefly here. Tonight we have a special interview with documentary filmmaker Gina Foley on the Sandra Crispo case. Erin will also have the latest on the little girl abducted off her bicycle in New York State this past weekend. She was later rescued by police and is okay, but it's a really fascinating story. Then Dave and Erin will go over the Amy Shear case, another unsolved case, someone that's still missing and just full of disturbing twists and turns. I'm going to bow out tonight and let my partners take care of you. But let's see if they're ready to go. If not, I'll keep you busy for a little bit. Looks like they're here. All right, everybody's here. So let me just introduce everybody, get them on stage. Here's Dave. You guys all know and love him. And we're going to bring in Gina here. Hopefully there'll be no sound issues or... There she is. Hi, Gina.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, Gina. It's very, very nice to meet you. I'm going to be bowing out. I'm in the background, though. So if you guys need any images put up or anything, please I'll be listening. Just say it. But very nice to meet you. Okay, Dave, take it away.
Hey, Gina.
Hello.
All right. How are you? How has life changed since the documentary came out?
Honestly, a lot has changed. I made that documentary my senior of college, so I have since graduated, and I'm currently trying to figure out my place in
Is that what you do? You want to be a filmmaker? Is that I want to talk about the case, but just personally, is that the goal for you to be a filmmaker?
Yeah, I mean, definitely some aspect of film. I don't think going after it, how do I put this? I definitely want films kind of as a hobby and kind of investigate more true crime, do kind of that kind of stuff. But as of right now, I actually work in the dog care industry. I'm a dog daycare handler, so.
Awesome. Well, we all have regular jobs. This is sort of just a passion play of ours. Erin, welcome. Sorry.
It's all good.
You know her. Curious. I got into the Sandra Crispo case when my wife came home and said one of her coworkers' mother was missing. That coworker being Lena. I sort of backburned it for a while. Well, when my book came out, totally different case. Fell into that for a few years, and then I'm just now circling back to Sandra's case. And I guess tell me a little bit about how you became interested in it and why you chose that.
Sure. So I actually remember hearing about her case when it first happened and kind of seeing all the news coverage on it, Lena getting out there, telling her story, trying to get the public's attention. And I remember it really sticking with me because watching somebody go out and kind of for help find her own mother, it kind of made me realize how awful that really must be. So it stuck with me for a long time. And when my senior year came up, we all have to do a thesis project to make a short film. So during the pandemic, I got really into true crime and came to that time to make those decisions. I remember Sandra's case being the one that kind of I wanted to investigate the most.
What tell me a little bit about the process of making it, then I'll let Erin ask you something. But just sure. It's a 13-minute film, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that. If so, correct me, please. Give me sort of your working theory, what you learned about Sandra Crispo. Give me a 30,000-foot view of where you are with the case right now. What do you think?
Sure. So I actually got to interview both Lena and her husband, Tim, for the film. So really understanding their perspective and understanding what went down that day, leading up to it, what happened after. yeah, I learned like how much of an amazing woman she was, and sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
You should watch some old episodes of ours. My God, and see me.
Yeah, so I actually ended up through that. We conducted a search. Me and Lena set up a search area in Weymouth, and through that, I actually got to speak with Lena a little bit more, learn a bit more of the background stuff of what was going on in the investigation. And as of right now, I feel like anything could go. I really don't feel like I have an opinion myself. It's just, yeah.
Interesting. Did you get to meet, was it just Lena? Who did you get to meet in the family? Just her, or?
Just Lena. I did get to meet Tim. I have spoken with Mike over Facebook a little bit, but I have not speak with him formally.
What do you think of Mike?
I mean, I feel like he just had a very different perspective of what kind of went down. I feel like his story deserves to be, talked about, shown as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
100%.
It is, yeah, and it has been kind of the same since it happened, Lena's perspective. And so meeting Mike and hearing his perspective really kind of threw a twist in, I feel.
Sure. Yep. It's good to hear it from both sides. We have invited
Definitely.
Mike on many times and we have an open invitation to Mike. I don't know if you've seen some of my reporting this week, but it's not, how do I put it? So favorable towards Mike, but we're happy to go ahead.
I don't think I did see that. I would like to, if you wouldn't mind explaining.
Well, it's just a lot of things that are out there right now that, well, I guess we'll say it. What better time than now to talk about it, right, Dubs?
Do you?
There was blood found in Sandra's house. I don't know if you know that or not. And that blood belonged to the boyfriend of Sandra's sister, Linda. I'm not going to name him here yet. And the very next day, this gentleman showed up at the house when Sandra was being searched for, and he demanded to know where the gold bars were that Sandra may or may not have had in her house. And there's a lot of things. There was Linda and a friend of hers who I named in yesterday's article, a woman named Deborah Giacomosi, spent 4 hours in Sandra's house the day after she disappeared, completely unattended.
Yeah.
What happened at that time? Sandra's mattress was ripped off the bed. And also a neighbor reported hearing Sandra arguing with two men the night prior to her disappearance. Who were those two men? These are all things that, are obviously key to the case, and no movement's been made on it. I mean, we've heard nothing about it. Outside of your student film, there has been nothing done in long form on Sandra's case. Nobody knows anything. So
Yeah, I know. That was the big thing when I was looking into it as well. There was nothing on it. And I just needed to change that.
We're hoping to change it more.
Yeah, and I didn't know all that information.
Yeah.
You told me, so it's new to me.
Dave disappeared.
Sorry, guys. Connection.
It's okay. Well, Gina, I just wanted to jump in if you don't mind. I was curious to ask you essentially, like, the process of filming this documentary. Where? Oh, geez, Dave. Where'd you start, essentially? Like, how'd you get started on this project? Who did you get in touch with first?
So I honestly, getting into it, I feel like I got way in over my head for what I was capable of doing at the time. I went right to Lena, and Lena and Tim were the I had spoken to at the time, all the way up through completing the film. They were the only perspective I had heard. And then after everything had come out was when I was ending up talking to Mike and kind of getting his perspective and learning more through the search. But as for starting, I really just went into the very few articles that were online for it and then went right to Lena.
Nice. Okay.
Where did you film? What towns did you film in, Gina?
So I filmed at Lena's house, and then I went to Sandra's house and filmed the outside there. I tried to get some shots of Hanson in general, some lakes, wooded areas, and then I also included some of the footage from our search that we did in Weymouth.
Did you get the sense in that neighborhood that it would be hard for the neighbors not to see something?
Honestly, I feel like it would have been. I feel like Hanson is a pretty quiet town in general. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it would kind of almost be impossible not to hear something at least.
Right.
I haven't been to the neighborhood before, but I was looking at satellite photos and stuff, street view as far as I could take it, which isn't very far given how rural that particular spot is. But it looked to me from above, at least, that all the houses right there are really close together, and it would be really, really difficult not to notice something going on right on top of you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that because it is a rural area in general, but they're close together, I would feel.
Yeah, it's tough for me to imagine that nobody saw anything. Perhaps a re-interview of the neighbors is in order for us, Erin. Anyway, one more question for me, Gene. Well, actually, two more. I think it's very telling that Lena is so, let's just be honest. People in her family point to her a lot. People like Mike, and it would be very Machiavellian, in my opinion, of Lena to be as open as she is. I mean, she texts me. We talk on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. She doesn't behave like a guilty person.
Yeah. I mean, she has been the one facing everything, like since the start. She's been the one championing the most for her mom. So I agree with you there that it doesn't make sense.
Okay. Yeah. And people in her family, frankly, they do run from me. I mean, they don't want to talk, and
they just call you names behind your back, Dave.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you, if you don't mind me asking, have you been able to speak to any of the sisters?
A little bit through text, but Linda is, she's very emotional is the word I get over her sister's disappearance. And, I respect that. Also, I'm just thinking if my wife, my sister were missing, I mean, I would talk to, I'd scream from the rooftops, but that's me. Everybody is different, and some people don't want to rehash things, and I get that too, but I don't get the sense that Sandra's disappearance was a sex crime or random. It had to have been somebody close to her, so I have not, but as we move forward here and do the book, I feel like
I've got the satellite photo up for me.
Yeah, it is the satellite, great. I feel like we do have to get them on the record the best we can, and I have texted all of them. They are aware that we are looking into the case, and we've talked to people involved in the case, so they're definitely aware. So and then they usually their response is personal attacks, which is again really bizarre for a family that's missing, a loved one. So,
okay.
And there's Sandra's house there, 47 Spofford. And you can see how tight the neighborhood is. Quaint little house there. Be difficult to imagine that somebody didn't see something. I'd be interested to see too if there were ring camera footage. I raised that point the other day. I wonder if any ring camera footage was. I'm sure the detectives on the case had the smarts to talk to the neighbors, but who knows, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Where can we find your documentary? Where is it, Gina?
So you can find it on YouTube. It is under my channel. You can search my name, Gina Foley, or you can find it by searching for Someone Knows Something, Sandra Crispo.
We also
put that in the chat right now.
Oh yeah, we also put it on our YCT discussion Facebook page about the Sandra Crispo case. So if you're interested, join us. We have a lot of good conversation, and I think we've linked Gina's video maybe twice since we started that. And I actually just tagged you in that post. So now you get the accolades you deserve.
Thank you very much. I really
It was excellent. It was excellent. And me and Dubs are going to do a long podcast series on this. So we're going to be talking again. We're going to need you again. So
yes, please come back.
It's awesome that you guys are doing all this work.
Thank you so much, Gina. Have a great night. Get some rest. Have a great day at work tomorrow. We'll reach back out soon. Okay.
You as well.
Thanks
Thank you
for joining us, Gina.
Thank you.
Wow. Here we are.
Yep. Here we
no
are.
Kevin. It's weird. It almost feels like we're the substitute teachers and we're about to get hit with a paper airplane.
I'm waiting for someone to insult me on behalf at this point.
We're just dodging it.
Sorry, guys.
Like when my kids are really quiet, you know that. When the kids are real quiet, something must be happening, you know.
Yep. That's when you worry.
What do you got on New York? Talk to me about this.
So much. I've been reading articles all day long on this case. And it's actually, I was talking to Kev about this earlier. It's actually nice. He said that it's actually nice to have a story on here with a happy ending for once. So
yeah, I know.
So I'm actually gonna ask Kev to pull up an address for me on the map since he still got it up. It's the Moreau Lake State Park in Saratoga County, New York. This is where Charlotte was taken from, where she was camping with her family this past weekend. So I'm just gonna wait a sec while Kevin pulls it up. Yeah, there we go. All right. So Moreau Lake State Park. I actually just to get personal for 1 second, had to text my mother about this because I spent a lot of time in my childhood camping in upstate New York. And reading the articles about what happened to Charlotte, the way they were describing this loop that she was riding her bike around, I was thinking back to when my brother and I were kids. We used to ride our bikes around a loop at the campground. We used to stay out with my mom and my grandmother, and I got really, really worked up about it. So I had to text her and make sure it wasn't the same place. But in any event, it wasn't. But around 6 o'clock Saturday night, Charlotte was riding her bike with friends around a street loop in that campground. I think if we zoom in a tad, we might see it. I know it wasn't super big. I think it was this loop here where the restroom and showers are right in the front there. But I'm not positive. The articles just say loop A. So it could be really anywhere in there. She was riding her bike with her friends around this small loop road. And her friends were going to go back to their respective campsites for dinner. And she decided to do one more loop by herself. It was about a 5-minute bike ride, and she never came back. So she had maybe 15 minutes all told between the time that someone last saw her and the time that her parents realized that she wasn't there. So her parents went walking around the loop to see if they could find her. Maybe she fell off her bike or got hurt. They found her bike, but they didn't find her and raised the alarm right away. So 911 was called, I believe, within a half hour of them realizing that she was missing. She just vanished. So they get the state police in right away. Because of the location of the campground. And Kev, if you can zoom out just a little bit, you can see the proximity of this campground to Route 87, which is a little bit further right there. That big main drag right there. Important to note about that highway, there are no toll cameras. Okay. So it's a major interstate highway. Given the proximity of the campground to the exit ramp off right near the highway, the state police were very concerned that someone could have grabbed her, taken her very quickly, very far away without anybody being, the wiser as to where she was. So, sorry, I have a frog in my throat. As we all
Right,
know,
Dubs? Yeah.
yeah, I'm just feeling a little verklempt. As we know, stranger abduction is super duper rare. We know that doesn't happen very often. So it's not the immediate conclusion that authorities would jump to in a case like this. They would look at people close to her. But I think given the circumstances, the police right away started investigating this as a stranger abduction. So by Sunday morning, they searched all night for her, Saturday night, within the campground, emptying the campground of campers. They had people leave, pack up and go. They searched all the cars that were leaving. They interviewed everybody that was leaving, and no one had seen anything. No one had her. So they widened the net a little bit and they checked the lake. They had bloodhounds. They had aerial units. They had boats. I mean, they went full bore on this, and the FBI got involved because it is a kidnapping case, or they were working it as a kidnapping case. So the FBI was there. They had a mobile command unit. I mean, the whole 9 yards. They were on top of it right away because, as everybody knows, the first 48 hours are crucial. So by Sunday morning, an Amber Alert went out. They had highway signs lit up. They had cell phone alerts for everyone in the area. And they searched continually all day long on Sunday. God. And her family, it's important to note, stayed at the campground rather than going home. So they only lived about 15 miles away, but they decided to stay there since it was the last place they saw her. So the only person that was at their home late Sunday night into early Monday morning was a New York State trooper that was there to keep an eye on the house. There were people constantly dropping by, leaving, cards and food and everything else, just well-wishing the family for Charlotte's return. And around 4:30 in the morning on Monday morning, a car drove up and put a note. A guy put a note in the mailbox of the home and drove away. This officer saw that he found the car to be suspicious. So after the car left, he walked to the mailbox, found the note, saw it was a ransom demand for Charlotte's return, and immediately brought it to the attention of the authorities in charge. And it took them, let's see, the trooper dropped the note off for fingerprint analysis because this Mensa member that kidnapped Charlotte had left his own fingerprints on the note. It took them until 2:30 in the afternoon Monday to find a match to Craig Nelson Ross Jr., who lived in Saratoga County. He got a DWI in 1999, which is why his fingerprints, he was arrested, which is why his fingerprints were in the system. They were able to match his cell phone pings to the area of the campground at the time of Charlotte's abduction. And they arrested him at around 6:30 Monday afternoon. And he resisted and got minor injuries, but they recovered Charlotte from a camper on his property, not injured, totally fine. Sent her to the hospital just in case, but she is back with her family and happy and healthy. So
I wonder if what do you know about Ross right now? Pedophile, any sex offenses, nothing?
Yes. I do know of allegations. I don't know if they're true. From what I read, he denied the allegations. I believe it was last year. He was being investigated for sexual abuse of a female family acquaintance when she was about 12. So the incident apparently occurred about a year ago, but the complaint against him was filed over this past summer. and the state police closed the investigation without filing any charges. I don't know the details. I didn't have time to really dig into those charges, but apparently he denied it and they were dropped. So
Interesting.
He disappeared again.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
I was like, don't leave me alone.
Every time I switch out of the
Every time
window,
what?
it does that to me. I don't know why, but hey, every time I switch out of this window and I try to look at anything else, it fucking does this. I don't understand why.
I should have asked
well,
Pat
hey.
to pull up this mugshot. He's a looker.
Oh my God, the guy he's scary, man. He looks like he could have been a member of Stephen Avery's family. Like,
He looks like one of the Murat clan. So so he's
well, hey, it's good to have a story with a happy ending anyway, Dubs.
Yeah, thankfully.
Seriously.
I'm so glad to hear that she was returned safely to her family. The ransom note demanded $50,000 for her return, and I'm even more excited that they did not have to end up giving him a cent. To answer you, Karen, she is 9 years old, and to BL, I don't believe he's married. Same age as my daughter too. It's terrifying. So this is why I don't let her out of my sight too much. So that's why stuff
Watch
like
it, goddamn kids.
Yeah, that's why stuff like secret passwords are really important with kids who are younger, who may be out playing in the neighborhood or something. I make my kids remember a secret password, so if someone approaches them claiming that they're with me or with Steve, we say, ask them for the password. And if they know us, they know the password and it's safe. But if they don't, you run and scream as loud as you can. So hoping.
And usually, I mean, I see BL said that the parents weren't far away. I mean, even in my book, I wrote about a bunch of disappearances, like Andrew Amato, his cousin was literally feet away, same thing with a little boy up in Maine, Kurt Newton. The last person to see him was tortured by the fact that she didn't stop. She literally crossed paths with Kurt, and she was, when I talked to her for the book, she was just fucking haunted by the fact that she didn't stop that little boy and stay with him until, here we are all these decades later and the kid's still missing. They usually are that bold. Somebody said in the chat earlier, they usually literally are that bold. They have very bad impulse control. And when it's time, when they're hell bent for it, it doesn't matter. Go back to my book. I commented a million times about how Wayne Chapman would take little boys in broad daylight, all the time, at busy places and things like that. So anytime there's access, unfortunately,
think about Andy.
Yeah, think about Andy as a public pool, right?
Yeah, there were kids all over the place.
Me and you have been there. We know how close the abduction took place to where people would be standing right there, right? And
and not just right there. Look across the road. Look down the street. I mean, it's crowded. It's busy, and that's so brazen, and it's scary. It's really, really scary.
It is. Yeah. Watch your kids, but you don't need us to finger wag that to you. So,
of course not.
Did you read my article this week on the disappearance of Amy Shear?
Yes.
What do you know about Amy Shear's disappearance? We'll do about 20 more minutes. We'll go about an hour.
All
right.
I literally only know what you put in your article. So tell me a story, Dave.
Sure. So about 2 years ago, somebody reached out to me, a woman named Joni McCullough, via my old website, david.mcgrath.com. That was my old website. And she said that I am going to put up a billboard for my sister who disappeared in 2002. She disappeared in Massachusetts from her job at the Leahy Clinic. There's Joni right there, actually. There she is. Sorry, the alarm. It's not a show unless there's an alarm.
Nope.
And at that time I was neck deep in Chapman, and I was like, I don't know if I have any interest in, a woman who disappeared, in 2002, but I'll do some Google searches. I'll take a look. So, as I was looking into it, I was like just blown away by how many opportunities people had to keep this woman out of the clutches of this husband of hers. So I guess we'll start here.
Oh God. Oh no.
There's Wendy Murphy. She's the attorney for Joni. Which is scary because have you heard me in the past mention that Wendy Murphy has worked on cases that I've looked into and talked to the family, and I said she knows nothing about them, and she talks in public about that. That's one of the cases I was referencing, because she doesn't have a great handle on what all went on with Amy Shear. So Amy Shear disappeared in 2002. She got married in 1994 to a guy from Acton, Massachusetts, named Robert Desmond, right? Robert Desmond came from a good family. His father was a hardworking guy. Brothers and sisters all turned out okay. But Robert was a controlling, just absolute monster. And he forbid Amy from seeing her family. The family had absolutely no contact with Amy from 1994 until she disappeared in 2002. I came into it about 2020. I was going to write something long form about it. And I found out that not only did Robert was still a free man all these years later, they actually had a son together. And the son was a true crime author, a fantasy author. And he went by the name Alex Ferrick online. And once I found that out, I was, guns a-blazing. I still to this day communicate with him. He doesn't know who I am, and he doesn't know that I know about his mom. And I'm waiting for the right time to sort of spring it on him. But anyway, Amy worked at the Leahy Clinic. She worked in finance. She had a bachelor's degree. She's a very smart woman, very happy-go-lucky woman. She's married to a guy named Todd Pomerantz. She ends up leaving that guy to marry Robert Desmond, New Hampshire in 1994. Amy is coming to work every day limping. She's coming to work every day with bruises. She's coming to work with missing teeth, clumps of her hair missing. Robert Desmond would call every hour on the hour and, berate her. She would have to the point where her bosses, who I spoke to, who I've spoken to at length in the last couple of years, actually set up a special spot for Amy to be so she could stay away from other people so they wouldn't hear her business, right? Because her husband was such a fucking psychopath. all the while all this is going on, Amy's family has not seen her since 94. They actually had a protection order against Robert. Robert would call, threaten the family. At one point, he said he was going to wipe out the entire Shear family. So they had no idea. So fast forward to 2002, Amy is confronted by a private investigator at her job at the Leahy Clinic. This private investigator was hired by her family to see what the hell was going on in her life. The private investigator meets her at her job and says, here's pictures of all your nieces and nephews. Your family wants you. They want to see you. They're worried about your well-being. She says, she gets physically ill at the sight of her nieces and nephews. She calls the PI, a guy named Joel Peachy is his name, and basically says, I want nothing to do with my family. He calls her from her desk like an hour later. He takes the guy's business card. She calls him like an hour later. He continues on her. Okay. So he stays on her. He sees her actually drop off a kid to school. And he was able to verify that that was her son. His name is Michael Shear. So fast forward to late 2002, Amy is getting her ass kicked clearly. She's clearly a battered woman. All of her friends at work and all of her colleagues are leaving pamphlets around her office, showing her how she can get out of the situation, 1-800 numbers, everything. They even take up a collection for her. And they were very close to getting enough money so they could get her out of that situation and away from Robert Desmond. Unfortunately, in October of 2002, Amy calls in sick a bunch of days.
Right.
Robert,
I think it's 2, right? And then he calls her out the 3rd day.
yeah, he calls her out the 3rd day and then asks for her boss's email addresses.
Right. And quits on her behalf, right?
Quits on her behalf from that email address that I put in the story. I think it's rdesmond@AT&T.net. Amy's never seen again, and she hasn't been seen since. Her driver's license expired. She never re-registered her vehicle. She never picked up her last paychecks. Nobody ever sees this woman in the flesh ever again. And it isn't until the private investigator who's staying on the case, Robert never reported her missing.
Of course not.
So the private investigator is staying on him, and realizes that, hey, fucking Amy isn't showing up to work anymore either. And Robert Desmond seems to be living alone with this child, bringing him back to school and everything. So finally, they call the police, Amy's family. And well, I guess I should back up and tell you that Amy's colleagues also called the police, and the police did not investigate. And I named the officer in the story. I can't remember his name offhand. He didn't think that it was he didn't think it was. He was like, listen, it's weird. We all know Amy, gets her ass beat at home, what we think. And it's weird that her husband would call her in sick, but like, it's not a criminal matter. So they didn't check in on him. So the time elapsed from the day that she left Leahy for the last time. It was 18 months before the private investigator was able to figure out that, wow, this lady isn't going to work and probably should be checked in on. So Robert had an 18-month head start to, rid himself of whatever, whatever happened with the body, or, we don't want to speculate on that. But either way, 18 months elapsed. The police finally catch up with Robert and they say, hey, listen, the family's calling on her. Work hasn't seen her as 18 months. What the fuck's going on? He says
the officer's name is Michael Casey.
Michael Casey of Billerica Police Department. Okay, thank you. So they interview Robert, and he basically says, listen, she left me for another man, excuse me. I left her at Alewife Tea Station in Cambridge. That's the last time I saw her. I assume she's fine. They see no evidence. They have no body. They never do a search warrant. They never, if she had a cell phone, they never applied for any sort of cell phone records, phone records, bank account records, nothing. They just say, okay. Fast forward to 2007. The family wins a paternity suit to see Michael because they've never seen this kid. They still to this day have never met this kid.
And he's how old now?
He is in college. He's 19. He was born in 96. So what would that be? I'm sorry. 96 would be what? 20. Jesus.
27.
Yeah, 20. I'm 84. So yeah.
My cousin's age. She's 27. So he never met anyone in her family.
Nope.
And he's 27 years old.
27 years old. So it gets even better. Once they get rights to see him and they win that suit, Robert Desmond takes his son and disappears, right? So they tracked him to California. He was living in Anaheim and Fullerton. Then he left, got out of there, and went to Arkansas. And now Robert Desmond is still free to this day. I know of 2 instances where detectives chased him down to Arkansas to check in on him. He's still there. And his son, Alexander Ferrick, the writer on the internet, nobody knows what he knows about his mom's disappearance. Nobody knows if he's been brainwashed by his father, if he's ever asked his father any questions about his mom, and he's never met this side of the family. And Robert, to this day, remains a free man, and nobody talks about the case. Now, there's a couple theories, a couple things I've been able to dig up in the last year or two. One, there was a nurse who lived next door to the Desmonds. She reported to police that she had smelled burning flesh in her job, and it's a smell that she would never forget. And she smelled that coming from the Desmonds' house around the time that Amy disappeared. She actually even did her on the record interview where she was like, I know that smell. You should get a search warrant for that house search that house. They never got the search warrant for the house. So you're talking about flubbed investigations. It's like, it's fucking unconscionable what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you have a missing woman who stopped working at her job under suspicious circumstances, and then you have somebody who is an authority on the smell of burning flesh saying that somebody was burning human flesh that day.
And this lady, this nurse,
that's probable cause.
This nurse was super persistent. She would call the police and be like, I know what I smelled. I know what it smells like. That's not normal. Like, that's exactly what she said. She's like, is that not probable cause for a search warrant? She was actually quoted
for a search warrant.
Quoted in the paper saying that. Now, I don't know if a search warrant was ever executed, but I could never find it. So I'm going to say probably not.
I'm going to assume no. Yeah.
And I see your comment, BL. Maybe the kid knows something. I don't know, but one of these days I'm going to drop it on him. But what I'm worried about is that his father has him so brainwashed and has ran in the past that if I, and you can find him on Amazon. He goes under the name Alexander Ferrick. It's in my latest Substack story. Or one of my latest Substack stories. Joni in the last after this episode. Yeah. So yeah, I want to know what he knows, but I also need to tread softly because I think the kid's been listening to a life.
Right.
Right.
He was sick.
I think his father was a master manipulator. I've heard that many times from people who knew him. And I think that he's manipulated the son into thinking that his mom just left him. And I think that's another reason why Robert would always run with Michael, is because he couldn't control what Michael would say to the family members.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? One other thing I learned too, talking to a PI on the case, was that Robert Desmond owned a boat, and he really believed that Robert may have been able to take Amy's body out and put it somewhere in the water. And Desmond, so we know Desmond owned a boat, and I think that's a key important thing in this whole case, is that he had access to a boat and he could get into the water, basically anytime. And the body is never turned up. And here we are 21 years later now. And this is probably the most ice cold case that we've ever talked about on this show. You will hear nothing about it. I think the Vanished podcast did do an episode on it.
They did. I listened to it.
Oh, did you? Okay. So
yeah, it was excellent. It was really well done.
So maybe I'll check that out.
They do a good job. They do a really good job. They did a good job with Sandra's.
They normally do. They normally do, and it's something that I'll definitely listen to again. I know I've listened to it in the past, but
you should. It's great.
I talk to the family pretty often, especially Joni, like I said, and they will, like, the minute you talk to them, it's like they're just like they're desperate, dying for anybody to give them any answers on Amy, and she's been missing for 21 years. Her husband's been able to go free, live his life in places like California, Arkansas, running with their son, who may or may have, their son may have no clue what happened to his mom. None. He may not even know. For all he knows, his mom ran off with another guy.
Yeah. I mean, well, think about the track record on Desmond. I mean, he had Amy under his thumb for what, almost 10 years?
10 years, yeah.
Isolating her from everybody around her. I mean, that's classic behavior.
Yep.
Classic coercive control behavior. To quote Laura Richards from Real Crime Profile, I mean, she's former Scotland Yard. She wrote the fucking manual on coercive control. Like, she knows. And from everything that I've heard her say about this particular issue, this sounds like a textbook example to me.
Yep. And it's just one of those things. It was just no body.
Right.
Like I write about all the time, no body, no crime, right? And there goes the alarm again. Jesus H Christ. One of these days I'm gonna get And what are the odds now, all these years later, that you're going to find, any evidence that Amy ever even existed? You know what I mean? And it's just wild to think that. And soon I'm going to, I don't know. I mean, I think the son could be the key to it. You know what I mean? I really do. And
I mean, just to see what his dad told him about his mother no longer. I mean, he has to explain it, right? I mean, 6-year-olds, like, you've had one. They ask questions, a lot of questions. So there's no way that this kid wakes up one day and his mother is gone and he doesn't ask his father what happened.
Right.
I mean, his father's the only other person he knows essentially at that age. So.
And I see people commenting like, hey, maybe the husband will make a mistake. But like, I can tell you now, the guy's been
had 20 years.
He's been crystal, like he's been clean as a whistle. He's been in no trouble. I just think he's a domineering psychopath who killed his wife, or allegedly, the only real suspect, and has been running from it. Right. Has been running from it ever since. And people like us haven't picked up on it enough to create public pressure.
Right.
And I hope that's what we can do here today.
Well,
that's the reason why I wrote about it. It's coming up on the yesterday was the 3rd. Yeah. So yesterday would have been the 21st anniversary. Amy Shear missing. Husband still alive. Main suspect in the case, running around Arkansas. Son, completely brainwashed, I think. Fantasy writer who goes under the name Alexander Ferrick. Probably the first time that's ever been said publicly. And I'm happy to be the one to do it. So we got about 5 minutes.
As a true crime writer, he would probably be open to discussing this. No?
You know what, though? I flubbed that. He's not really a true crime writer. He's more of like a fantasy writer. Like he's more of fantasy stories. I linked his book, or I put a picture of the cover of the book in my story.
Oh, the Demon Slayer thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep.
We got about 5 minutes left. Anyone got any questions? Anyone got anything? The Crispo stuff is crazy. I can see people commenting it already on Facebook.
Awesome.
All right, let's answer some questions here. Let me answer some Facebook questions. You ready?
Yes.
Ask Elena McMahon to do an interview with our Uncle Mike, and you will finally get the truth.
Is that from Dabrowski?
Yeah, that's from somebody else. Mike Dabrowski, Joan Smith Riley commented on your post. Do an interview with Mike Dabrowski. Is getting close to close. People deleted their comments, so I can't see them now. But I did report in my story that Mike Dabrowski allegedly left his father's funeral early to break into Sandra's house, and
they supposedly have it on tape.
And there's a police report out there. Are we accusing? We have no idea. That we're just telling you what people tell us.
It is a rumor. It is a rumor.
Yep. Then
we're not reporting rumors as fact.
Right. Definitely not. We're just telling you what people tell us.
Yep.
And every time I bring it up, I feel like people message me and co-sign that happened. People close to the family and stuff. So where there's smoke, there's fire. But we'll see. Also I reported that there was a grand jury that convened, and Michael, who is very, loud and boisterous on Facebook, had the opportunity to tell his story at the grand jury. And from what I hear, he pleaded the fifth to talk about anything. Again, I don't know if that's true. People talk about grand juries. I've seen comments left, on our YouTube channel saying the exact same thing. So there's so much more.
I'm puzzled over that. Pleading the fifth when he's so damn vocal on Facebook. And the answer to every question I ask him is read my Facebook, read my posts about this and that. And they're all super duper vague. So it's like, buddy, just if you want the truth out there, if you want your side of the story out there, open invitation, Mike, come talk to us.
I guess we'll end the show on that. Michael Dombrowski, you have an open invitation to come speak to us. We will give you an hour. You can tell us all about the satire. Nobody will interrupt you. Nobody will argue.
Nope.
Your sister is missing, man. If you had nothing to do with it, no one here is accusing you. We have no idea. We gave Lena an hour here. We'll be happy to give you one. And, I guess we will end on that if you guys have nothing. Here's Kevin. Hi, Kev.
Hey, guys, you did a great job. Just been listening. I want to add real quick, we have a special live show Friday that's going to be me and Jay from New York interviewing Aaron how do we say his name, Dave? Cadu from the New Bedford killings? Cadu?
When did this happen? All right, go ahead.
But this is just about this is going to be about the Bridgewater Triangle, though. I told you about it a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah.
That's so it's something different. It's something different. Jay's already done it. We already have a couple of interviews that Jay has done in the can, and he's got a whole bunch of really good stuff lined up. He's just been having some technology issues with his phone over the StreamYard. There's a lot of backgroundy kind of noise, or whatever you call that, computery noise that comes in. So when we figured that out, we got a lot of good stuff from him. But I want to do the first week just to kind of introduce him and everybody. But Aaron, as you know, is a great guest. So that'll be a great first guest.
Yeah. Aaron's the best. And, not to be confused with Aaron.
That's why I said Dubs.
And we all went out there, a month ago now to Bridgewater, and we met a great camera guy, Cole, that worked with us. And
awesome.
He knows all the secret spots. So someday we got to get back out there, maybe at the end of this month, and shoot with him.
We hung out in the graveyard. We literally hung out in the graveyard.
For so long.
And on the grounds of
helicopter.
Yeah, we were on the grounds of the Bridgewater State Hospital, which is a prison.
Jay, do you mind if I answer Jay Roberts' question? He writes, "Who killed Deanna Kremen?" If you guys don't know about this story, Deanna Kremen disappeared about a block from where my sister lives in Florida, in Somerville, Massachusetts, back in 1995. She was stuffed in a dumpster about, 100 meters from her front door. And there's a lot of discussion on who exactly she was dating at the time. Maybe it was a Somerville police officer. Be on the lookout. It's so interesting, Jay, that you mentioned that, because I just finished the first draft of my story on Deanna. And there's a lot there that I don't think a lot of people know, or they just don't remember. But we got a murdered girl dumped in a dumpster, 800 feet from her back door. And no answers for the family, nothing. It's probably the most, outside of Molly Bish, the most famous murder of a young girl in the history of the state. So, and it just so happens that I have a very personal connection to that city. A lot of family there. I've walked that street hundreds of times over the years. So, yeah.
We have some regular fans of the channel. I don't want to say their names, but that they're in touch with us a lot, that are connected to a lot of, or have a lot of inside knowledge about what's going on in Somerville over the last 20 years, corruption related to police and stuff like that. So I'm sure they'd be able to help us out a little bit with this.
We would love that, because Somerville is like the Canton of the North. Like, it's just such a cesspool of, and the old mayor there, Joe, was it Curtatone?
Curtatone, yeah.
God, yeah, what a fucking piece of work that guy was. Unreal,
I lived in Somerville once upon a time. I liked it. But that was
you live
back
in Winter Hill?
No. I was their boss. No, I'm kidding. No, I lived not too far from Davis Square. A lot of college people moved there. That's why I moved there not long out of college.
It was kind of back in the 1980s then.
Yeah. No, this would have been like early 90s.
That was back when Kevin had the afro.
That's right.
I need pictures now.
I don't know if that's
there was an afro.
And I never shaved it. It just years fell off after. No, I never. He's kidding. I never had an afro. But if you want to,
I'm so excited.
I've seen pictures of my hair in the 80s, and just in the 1970s when I was in like the 8th grade. And back then, everybody's hair, it just was like hip, kind of like a 70s version of the hippie era, and it all just would cover your eyes. It was terrible. It was terrible. But
Oh, this sounds awesome. I need
All
to
right.
see it.
Yeah.
Great job, Dubs,
Thank you.
as always.
Everybody,
anything
thanks for
else?
being here. And these guys did a really great job. And I hope to see you Friday. And we don't know. We don't know for sure when our next show is going to be. Our next True Crime show. I'm sure they'll come up, but we're definitely going to do every Wednesday at 8. So that's going to be our regular gig thing. We're going to try to do more produced shows for you too. We've been slacking on that lately. So I know Erin's got one ready to go, and I've got a
We got
couple
2 in the
getting close,
bag right
so.
now.
Yeah, so we're gonna get those going, and I think we're gonna do something similar to that for Dave's book, which is coming out the end of this month.
October
So
30th.
30 October. Anything you ever wanted to know about NAMBLA in Massachusetts, you're gonna enjoy it. If you like the first book, this one's even better.
And the name of the book, Dave, is?
The name of the book is I've Got an Obsession: 7 Years Investigating Missing Children in Massachusetts.
By Dave McGrath, and you can pre-order it now on Amazon.
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Everybody, have a good night.
You.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good one.